Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bob's Live, our weekly show right here on the internet. And well, this week I've got some good news if you happen to live in the Gallipolis area. And that is that our Gallipolis store, it is going to be opening this Friday. So the current store hours, and I should have looked at this earlier, um, the current store hours are going to be 9 to 5 Monday through Saturday, and then noon to 6 on Sundays. So that'll be our spring hours starting off. And as I said, we're going to be opening up this Friday, which is April Fool's Day. I feel like I need to make something for Facebook or something. April Fool's Eve for our Gallipolis opening. So, yeah, our Gallipolis store, it's opening up. But first this week, what I wanted to take a look at is what's happening out in the greenhouse. So one area that we've visited this past spring is our field house location. And it's normally where we grow our cuttings. So one of the last times we were down there, we were seeing little cuttings that were being grown to make hanging baskets. And we still have some cuttings in that greenhouse, but now it is mostly filled up with finished products. So it's about a 50-50 mix right now as far as floor space. So we have cuttings that we're still growing that will be transplanted for stuff later in the season. But we also have a lot of finished product in there. And I thought it would give you a good look at what's happening and kind of that transition between young plants and growing finished product. So let's take a look at what's happening at our field house greenhouse. This morning I am down here at our field house location where we have a number of different crops. So behind me we have a mixture of New Guinea impatiens and hanging baskets, and then down on the floor we have everything from petunias to marigolds and just a variety of things. So let's take a look at what we have growing. Here we have some flats of wave petunias that are starting to bloom. Wave petunias are a spreading petunia, so they make a great choice for both areas like flower beds, but also in containers if you kind of want them to spill down over the sides. We've got one little marigold blooming out of this entire area. This variety is called Bonanza Yellow, and as you can see, all of these are just about ready to start blooming. Over in this section we have a bunch of different 4.5-inch pots. All of this behind me is coleus, so if you're looking for some colorful foliage, coleus make a great choice. So last week we were looking at begonia hanging baskets. In this section we have 4.5-inch pots of the same begonias. So if you want to create your own begonia container, these are a great choice for doing that. And right here we have some deco containers that have geraniums in them. And these are actually trial varieties. So this is Mojo Magenta. If you're looking for a mixed container that you can use year after year, like our deco pots, these watering can planters are a great idea. And something cool with them when it comes to storage is the little water spout actually slides right off. so that way it takes up less space when you store it. If you're wanting to attract pollinators to your garden, lantana is a great choice. These 4.5-inch pots, by the end of the summer, they'll get huge in your landscape, and they attract a lot of bees and butterflies. I had to get a closer shot of this lantana. This is a variety called Lucky Pink, and the cool thing about lantana is the blooms kind of develop from the bottom toward the middle, and this variety in particular, the blooms are initially yellow and then they kind of fade to pink. So you get this cool effect where the outer perimeter of the bloom is pink and you have that sort of pink center where the buds are, but you get this cool little yellow crown. So we were looking at Lucky Pink. This is a variety called Lucky Sunrise Rose, and that same coloration effect happens here, but it's a little bit more pronounced. So you can see how we've got the pink around the bottom, the kind of more yellow in the middle, and then here's some blooms that are just starting, and you can see the same thing. So yeah, it creates a really cool effect. And finally, over my shoulder here, we have an entire bay of pepper plants. So hopefully the weather warms up enough that we can start sending these to our stores. Of course, right now, still a little bit too early for peppers around here, unless you're potting them up and bringing them inside at night. But yeah, actually right down here, some habaneros, so whew, really hot. And well, that is what's happening down here at our field house greenhouse. So that's what's happening out in the greenhouse, at least down at our field house location. So yeah, we've got kind of a mixed bag down there. Everything from vegetables to flowers. It's just a crazy mix of stuff. Um, so of course you can always follow us, whether you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, but you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram, and we're also over on TikTok. And all of those places, it is at Bob's Market. Uh, so if you're watching this on Facebook, go ahead and hit the like button and also share this video so more people can see our live streams. And right now we're actually getting pretty close to 10,000 followers on Facebook. And whenever we do that, we're going to do something special. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about this evening is something that we've visited in the past, and that is the hydroponics system at my house. I put in this hydroponics tower back in, let's see, it was back in December. And something that they recommend doing is doing a reset every 3 to 4 months. So basically, seasonally, you need to take it apart and clean it and start over. So when I did the last video about the hydroponics system, it was kind of in the middle of production as far as it running. So I thought cleaning it would give you a good opportunity to show how it goes together. And also, between this video and our next video, which is going to be on starting up the hydroponics system, it would give you a little bit of a deeper dive into hydroponics. So if you want to see the previous video on hydroponics, you can head over to our show notes at bobsmarket.com/live, and you can find the show notes for this episode. And down at the bottom of that post, I have the last video, and then I also have a blog post about hydroponics. So you can find all that over on our website. So, anyhow, I've talked enough. Let's get into it. And if you have any questions, be sure to put them in the comments. And then we'll jump back in after the video and I'll answer any questions. This evening, we are here at my house once again with my Let Us Grow hydroponics tower. Now, what you have to do is about every 3 months, you have to completely disassemble this and give it a really good cleaning. In the documentation, they call it a reset. So that's what I'm going to be doing this evening. I've had this growing since really the beginning of December, so it's actually a little bit past due for a reset. So I'm going to be harvesting the last of this lettuce, and I've actually taken some of the plants that were in it and potted them up, so I'll transfer them out to the garden later. But I'm going to show you the process of doing the reset, how it goes together, and a little bit more about how it works. So as you can see from the roots on this tomato plant, the roots kind of go all over the place. And sometimes they grow into places where they really shouldn't be, like the crack there that forms the seam between two sections. So that's the type of thing that I'm going to have to clean up. Also, those roots growing in between the sections can lead to a little bit of nutrient buildup where it kind of seeps out around the edges. It doesn't really leak, it evaporates as it comes out, but you get this kind of crusty buildup of nutrients, which it's mostly calcium, but that'll have to be cleaned up. I just finished removing the last of the plants from this and all of the blank cups that I had in there. And I've got all them in some soapy water with vinegar. But, oh my land, there is a lot of dead roots that are still in this thing. So, yeah, it definitely needs to be cleaned periodically. Let's take a look. So that entire bundle of roots right there isn't attached to any plant. They've been hanging out in there for who knows how long, growing who knows what. Now, if I reach in with my fingers, I can actually pull it loose because it's just hanging there in one of the drainage holes. And, oh, it's actually stuck in on the bottom too. And looking down into the reservoir, there are quite a bit of roots that grew down into it. Of course, I always had to reach my hand in the hole there behind the pipe. That's the access hole for the wires and also where you add water and nutrients. So every week I would have to reach my hand in there and grab the roots and give them a trim. Because you don't want the roots growing all the way down into the bottom because they can get sucked up by the pump. Alright, so my next step is to get the water out of the reservoir at the bottom. And it's about 25 gallons of water, so it weighs quite a bit. So the easy way to do it is to use the pump for the hydroponics tower. So with it, they sent this little adapter, and it screws into a garden hose. And then I'm simply going to run that out the door and pump the water outside. Alright, so up here at the top of the tower, it has a lid that just twists on, and air vent's blowing right on me right here. But all I have to do is just give it a twist, and the lid just pops right off. So down inside the top up here, we have where the pipe comes up, and this little thing right here, it just evenly disperses the water. So all that it needs to do is come off, and then I need to find a place to set up. And then this connector just goes right on the top of it. And there we go. Now we're ready to pump the water out. And this wire right here, this goes to the top ring of LEDs. So I've got to disconnect each layer of these as I start disassembling. So now I'm just going to bypass the timer and plug the pump directly into the wall. Alright, we're about 5 minutes later and I can hear the pump starting to pull air, so we'll go ahead and turn it off. Now I can actually hear it siphoning, so we'll let it continue to siphon until we're emptied out. Okay, now I need to completely kill the power to the hydroponic system so I can start disassembling it, which means disconnecting each layer of the light rings. So let me go ahead and grab the plug here. And it's about to get a lot darker. Oh yeah. Okay, now that I've worked my way down a few layers, you can see what I'm doing. So this pipe going up the middle, it's coming from the pump up to the top, and then the water kind of filters down through. As I'm cleaning, I'm finding stuff like these roots, which I have a pail over here that I'm putting them in, and they're going to go out to the compost pile. Oh, there's another nasty one. So basically each light ring level has 2 wires coming out of it, except for the top one, which only needs 1 wire. So I've got the connector here coming up from the layer below, and then this one goes up and feeds the next layer. And they have this little waterproof connector right here that has a little O-ring in it that seals the connection. So all I need to do is just unscrew that, pull it apart, and then this just takes a twist to unlock it, and then it comes off, and then the next layer down below, you twist it, and that comes off. Of course, I have to kind of work it around this connector here for the lights. And of course, this one doesn't want to cooperate. There we go. And then that comes right off like that. Okay, so I remove the cover off the back here, and that'll let me pull out these wires, which one goes to the pump and the other one goes to the lighting, which, yeah, this one is the lighting wire. And just let me go ahead. I can pop this O-ring loose, which it definitely needs cleaned also. But that'll let me pull that out. Oh, that's the pump. I was backwards on it. That's the lighting. So there we go. All right. So yeah, we do have quite a bit of junk down in the bottom of our tank here. And this is mostly precipitate from the nutrient solution. Of course, for plants, it's high in calcium and also high in iron, so that's why it has that nice rusty color to it. So my next step is to pull the pump up out, which unfortunately I lost a couple of the suction cup feet, so I'm going to have to reach my arm down in there and pull those off. But let me pull the pump up out here and we'll take a look. So I'm pleasantly surprised. The screen on the pump itself is pretty clean. This is where anything would collect if roots or something got sucked up against the pump. Which it has a little gate here where you can adjust the water flow, which for the lettuce grow, it needs to be completely open like that. But yeah, I do need to pull it out. It's got some sludge on it, but other than that, it looks pretty good. Alright, so now I've got to clean each layer and then also the rings in between, which they just kind of need wiped down with a cloth. And the main thing that I'm going to be using to clean with is vinegar. So I've got a 50-50 mix here of vinegar and water. And we'll use some hot water and a scrub brush and just get to it. So this is layer one. This is going to be really tedious, so it's time-lapse time. Alright, I got it back together. Cleaning it turned out to be quite a job. And reassembly was basically the reverse of when you saw me taking it apart, so I didn't see any need to record that. But right here behind me, I have my kind of springtime seed starting station set up. Normally when I start seeds for my hydroponic system, I just set up a temporary little station in the kitchen using this grow light. But I also have a couple fluorescent grow lights for starting seeds for the garden in the springtime. So I set up the shelf temporarily to do that, and then it all goes away after, like, late April, early May. So I've got these 24 seedlings that are going to go into the hydroponics system, and we're going to see that in the next video. Alright, so that is resetting my hydroponics system. And I did that last night, was when I did that process, and I started about 6 o'clock or so in the evening, and it took me to about 11:30. So I'd originally planned on doing the reset, getting the water in it, and getting plants in it all in one evening, and doing that all as one video. Which this video, once I edited it together, ended up being about 12-13 minutes. So I think it's a great stopping point to break it into two separate videos. And it was definitely a stopping point for me last night at 11:30. So this evening I'm going home and actually shoot part 2 of this that you'll see next week. So we're going to be putting the water in it this evening, and when I do that, I'm going to use that same garden hose, and I actually have a spigot that I can attach a garden hose to that's in my laundry room nearby, so that way I can fill it up, like 90% of the way. And then what I need to do is add in the nutrients. And the nutrients you'll see in the video, it's a part A and part B system. So you mix up part A and add it, and then let it kind of circulate. Then you add part B, let it circulate. And then the final thing that you have to do is adjust the pH. By adding the nutrients, and then also just because of our tap water around here, it's something that we deal with here at Bob's too, is the water tends to be a little bit alkaline. So I actually add in this powder that's called pH down, and it's basically magnesium sulfate and citric acid, and that lowers the pH and gets it down into the correct range. So you'll see all that next week. It's kind of a cool process. You do a little bit of chemistry, um, break out some test tubes to test the pH and stuff, but it's really actually pretty simple. This system, they designed it to be as user friendly as possible. Um, like I said, doing this reset, it's a lot of work, but you only have to do it once every 3 to 4 months. So I can do it 4 times a year. That's not that bad. The trade off is that I get fresh growing lettuce basically year round. Um, so we're going to see that next week, and also the mix of plants that I'm putting in. I've got quite a wide variety of plants that I'm putting in this time. So we'll see that next time here on Bob's Live. So until then, keep growing.